You are the guy that people love to debunk, to argue with, to humiliate. I spent almost 4 hours over the weekend, Bart, watching everybody going after you because they just can't stand the fact that you have been saying for the longest time, we didn't walk on the moon. Apollo 11 was faked. The whole thing is faked. You've got a funny thing happened on the way to the moon. Astronauts gone wild. And then you were on with Joe Rogan for 3 hours, and I watched about 2 hours of that. You got a lot of people that don't like you, Bart.
Well, the truth is often that way. I see many times people are offended because they've made a god out of various people or things. It's very simple to prove that the moon missions are fake. All you have to do is to think, is there any technological machine in 1969 that is higher quality, faster, better than its counterpart today? Today, with 5 decades better technology than 1969, the farthest that NASA can send an astronaut into space is only 1,000th the distance to the moon. So what they're claiming is back in 1969, when all of NASA had 1/1,000,000th the computing power of a cell phone, they sent astronauts 1,000 times farther on the first attempt ahead of schedule than they can do today with 5 decades better technology. The fact is they did cheat, they did lie, and it's as if there's an American football team that won the Super Bowl by cheating. And they did cheat, but you try to tell the American public so, they are defending the lie. Now, whoever killed Kennedy, he's still dead. It's still a tragedy. You can change hats on who did it and why, or 9/11. But this is a positive lie that the government did. Now, according to Kennedy's own relatives, he was murdered by the CIA for wanting to shut them down. According to Defense Secretary during the Johnson administration, the Vietnam War, which was passed by legislation from Congress, the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, based on an attack from a North Vietnamese ship against an American ship, never happened. So if they're willing to kill their own president, to fake the beginning of a war that killed 58,000 of their own people, I don't think they're going to have a problem faking a video image of the moon when there's no independent press coverage.
But then,
even
Bart,
the command center people say they can't tell a difference between a simulated flight and a real flight, and they're in the command center.
Then that puts you, as you have said in numerous interviews, within sort of the crosshairs of the CIA. I was listening to this interview that you did, and I'll just play this for you, and we'll catch your reaction.
I found the footage of them faking being halfway to the moon. That day that I found it, which was June 30th, 1999, when I called up Bill Casing, super excited, that phone call was interrupted with this screech so that I couldn't talk to him. I was literally followed from church that night. They disabled my car as I pulled up alongside of someone following me to get a look at them. My car just died. A military source I have says they zapped it with what do you call it, EMP weapon or whatever. I'm literally being chased on foot by 3 other cars. I hire a cab to drive me with the secret footage to CNN, where I'm surrounded by government agents.
Atlanta, Georgia.
And they drug me to the point of vomiting with what I presume is truth serum. I escaped their custody. I made my way back to Nashville. And I told the NBC News director I got him because I peed in a cup. And I said, I'm going to prove I was illegally abducted and illegally drugged by the federal government. And so I gave it to a friend to put in a lab in his name. And after we met for lunch a few days later, I said, well, what are the lab results? I'm going to prove I was drugged by this exotic drug. He says, well, there was a problem at the lab. And I'm like, well, what problem? He says, well, they had a break-in over the weekend. And I'm like, well, so what? He says, well, funny thing, the only thing stolen was your urine sample. And so they sent CIA agents actually into the lab over the weekend to remove my urine sample to prove that I had been drugged and interrogated with truth serum when they wanted to know how many copies of the tape I had and all this kind of thing.
Why do you think they let you go? Why didn't they just whack you?
Well, I escaped.
So let's just, for the sake of the show and everything, all of this is true. And the CIA has, your name, and they obviously know where you are. But here's this guy that wants to tell everybody we didn't land on the moon. So are you risking your life every time you go out in public or every time you speak about this?
No, if something happened to me, it would only add fuel to the conspiracy fire. One of the reasons why I escaped is because there were good guys in the government helping me who thought that what the federal government did was morally wrong, and it was wrong. When it dawns on you that they actually did fake the moon landing, you realize what a horrific state not only is America in, but mankind is in. That we are so juvenile, we can't tell the truth to our own people. We falsify what is called the greatest accomplishment of mankind, and we murder people to cover it up. And that's not even my opinion. I interviewed the widow of the man who was going to be the first man to walk on the moon, who wouldn't cooperate with the fraud, and he was murdered by the CIA. That's his widow's opinion, not my opinion. So our government that was established to provide freedom, right, of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, is murdering their own people, and people are naively, like Stockholm Syndrome, defending the people who faked the moon landing. Just go to Sibrel.com. S as in Sam, I, B as in boy, REL, Sibrel.com. You'll see an eyewitness, his son, who was there when his father confessed that he supervised the faking of the moon landing at Cannon Air Force Base in 1968, a year in advance. And my book, Moon Man, which just came out, goes into all the behind-the-scenes adventures. I read it in audio, it's Kindle and print, and I go into all the behind-the-scenes adventures that you showed a recording of for the first time ever. I mean, it just breaks my heart. I presume, John, you saw a funny thing happen on the way to the moon. You saw them faking being halfway to the moon with the footage we uncovered, which proves they never left Earth orbit.
And so
And
just
when
to
I
put this
saw
in,
that, I'm like, oh my gosh, they actually did fake the moon landing.
so Bart, the big historical context is this. So Russia gets Sputnik up there, 1957 or whatever it was. The U.S. panics. They realize if this is a space race, we are way behind. So they start to pour all this money in. They're going to get all this into education, send people to college. We got to catch up with the Russians. Kennedy announces we are going to do this, and we're going to show the world that nobody's better than we are. This is going to be we're going to have a man on the moon. So then the Russians are watching, because if they have that technology, what other technology do they have? So this is a space race that goes into place, right? And we spend, I forget how many millions and billions of dollars, I don't know, it's in today's dollars, get spent on this thing in order to get us up onto the moon, right? So the Russians realize, oh crap, they beat us to it. The United States at that point needed this victory, and there was, tremendous amounts of money spent on this. The question I always have is, so they spent all the money. Wouldn't Russia, if it was a race, wouldn't Russia want to go, oh, by the way, you guys faked that? Wouldn't that do more to, destroy the U.S. legacy than just winning, quote unquote, the race to space? Why doesn't Russia come forward and go, we have evidence as well. Look at this. You wasted all this money. You guys never went. You shot the whole thing in some studio somewhere. Why doesn't Russia point this out?
Well, that's the normal question, but that's only one layer. I could have a picture of a world leader with a prostitute and upload it to the internet and bring that person down, and then the picture is useless. Or I could blackmail them year after year after year. Go to Sibrel.com, scroll down halfway. You'll see Vladimir Putin at the AI conference last year, where the most advanced AI, 10 AIs hooked up together, Google's neural network. One team had it write a symphony in 2 seconds, another had it write a novel in 2 seconds, and one of teams took advantage of its deep fake detector program, which has never been wrong. You can feed it a video of Biden or Trump. It'll tell you whether it's real or not in 1 second. They fed it pictures of the surface of the moon from unmanned Chinese probes. They said the pictures are real. They fed them Apollo landing pictures. They said every single one is fake, has a fake backdrop. Vladimir Putin was there. Go to Sibrel.com. You'll see him being shown these results. Why didn't this make the news? The smartest AI in the computer is either a piece of junk or they didn't go to the moon. It says the pixels don't line up. It's a fake background in every single Apollo picture. They are blackmailing the United States. I have a friend, who sits in the command center of the Chinese Space Agency during launches. He says everybody there knows that the missions are fake. They are blackmailing the United States for space technology that Congress forbid them to have. The CIA is giving them to him anyway to not blow the whistle about the fake moon landings, which would embarrass America.
Here's the big question. There were, I don't know how many tens of thousands of people involved in the launching and then the successful, as story and history is believed to be, as most people do believe, about 20% don't, 6%, anywhere between 6 and 20% believe we actually never went there and it's all fake. So every single person that was involved in this thing, did they all have to keep a secret, Bart?
No, not at all. I mean, that's another one-layer question that people never investigate any further. The atomic bomb involved 129,500 people, and only 8 people knew what they were making. I talked to Eugene Krantz, flight director. He said someone in the command center at Houston can tell no difference whatsoever between a simulation and an actual flight. Yeah, there were hundreds of thousands of people involved, if you include people who made food and paper clips. Do you really think the CIA is so stupid to tell the person making the glove or the door handle, hey, we're not going to the moon, don't tell anybody? The person who is CEO of Bank of America and the 400,000 bank tellers, what they know about corruption in the bank is completely different. That's like saying, well, I know they didn't cheat during the Super Bowl because my uncle sold popcorn, or my, other uncle gave them a rag to wipe their sweat. No, you have no idea. There's only 3 eyewitnesses and no independent press coverage, and we have to trust Richard Nixon for his honesty.
And when you went up in 2002 to Buzz Aldrin, you had a Bible with you. This has become a famous clip. People have seen it a million times. You wanted him to swear on the Bible.
You like that? Why don't you swear on the Bible that you walked on the moon?
Come with me, Buzz.
You really like it, don't you?
You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if I ever thought of it. Saying I misrepresented myself.
Away from me.
You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
Bang. Good left hook right to the jaw.
Well, the fact is, if I walked on the moon,
yes,
I would find the idea that someone believed that I didn't and it was done at a TV studio hysterically funny. The fact is that a sword with no point causes no injury. He was angry because I'm telling the truth in front of his entourage. It's like me going up to him beside his wife and saying, oh, your mistress says hello. Here's a clip, if you want to play a clip for radio, of the secret tape that we uncovered, the one that I was abducted over at the back door of CNN. I could turn my microphone toward it.
Yeah.
We have footage. Go to Sibrel.com. You can see it, of them faking being halfway to the moon with a 1-foot model of the Earth. And they have a 3rd track of audio of the CIA telling them not to speak until 4 seconds go by. Take a listen.
CIA still holding back. So I'm looking at it here. I'm looking at your website.
So you heard talk. You heard NASA speak. Then you heard 4 seconds of dead air. And then someone say, talk. And then Neil Armstrong speaks. You see, they never left Earth orbit. And what a surprise. Here we are 56 years later, and they still can't leave Earth orbit, which means they're only about 250 miles above the Earth. So the radio conversation would be instantaneous, which would give away the fact that he's actually not halfway to the moon, as he claimed. So he had an earpiece in, a 3rd track of audio of the CIA. They counted off 4 seconds, then said talk to create a fake radio delay. It's right there. I have another clip where we accidentally left a live microphone on an astronaut after an interview with him, where I showed him that fake footage, and he and his son are talking about having me killed by the CIA.
Well, don't play it yet because we're not here. It's not coming through. Do you hear it, Joe? It's not. Yeah, so...
Well, okay. In any case...
But I'm looking on your website. I can see all these different cuts that are in here. Can you do this? Can I just take a fast break? Because I just got to ask you questions about, if you believe this to be true, how do you deal every single day with news that comes from the government? You must be the most skeptical person in the world. For skeptics of the moon landings, it was 57 years ago, July 20th, that Neil Armstrong walked on the moon. And Bart says, nope, never happened, and believes he has the evidence to prove it. You have been all over the place, especially with this being the anniversary of it. You have been one of the people. There's the other guy's name is, who's the other guy that was one of the, Casey, or was it the first guy that came out was like, this didn't happen? What was his name?
William Casey.
Yeah, William Casey. Yeah, same sort of thing. Just say the evidence isn't there. So a bunch of people, I assume, are going to your website right now, Bart, and they're probably going to get your book or watch your films that you do. And a couple of people are like, okay, here's a question. Years ago, Google had a satellite capacity. They literally did a photographic flyby of the exact route of Apollo 11 that it took in the lunar module, and it's identical to the footage of the 1969. Then this person writes, end of conspiracy, Bart.
Well, they haven't done any research at all. That's like saying the Fox is presenting evidence that they didn't steal a chicken. The fact is, in order to leave Earth orbit, the rocket wasn't tall enough. We found a publication by von Braun that says it's impossible to go to the moon in one rocket. The minimum would be 3 rockets, each weighing 800,000 tons each. The Saturn V weighed 2,500 tons, not 800,000 tons. It's a difference of 30,000% times 3. Elon Musk, whose rocket is 3 stories taller than the Saturn V, says he has to make a minimum of 8 fuel trips to a space station first before he can go to the moon. You see, you can present all this evidence. I've even talked to a college professor who said if he saw Neil Armstrong confess on national TV that the moon missions were fake, he'd still think he walked on the moon anyway. People have made a god out of this, and how ironic. Mankind's greatest accomplishment by the most powerful nation on earth is completely corrupt. Now, before the break, you talked about, well, what would be the point of the truth coming out? What is the purpose of my website? You have to imagine if right now, the president came forward with Buzz Aldrin on his right-hand side, and they confessed they did fake the moon landing. What would happen? There would be a major house cleaning in the federal government because according to my eyewitness who was there when they filmed the fake moon landing at Cannon Air Force Base, President Johnson showed up the first of 3 days of filming, and then 1 year later, Republican Nixon gave it the thumbs up. You see, so both parties are corrupt. If the president really wants an unprecedented referendum on a house cleaning, show the fraud that will upset people the most. They did fake the moon landing, and people are in denial about it because it's a glorious lie that they are defending the people who told the lie about it.
And the video, Bart, the video
makes it free.
The video of them moving, because they're supposed to be, they have less gravitational force. So what they did is, according to you and others that don't believe it, they had these guys kind of hop, and then they slowed down the video or slowed down the film that would make them appear to be sort of more weightless than if they were just, on Earth. So, and then you
again, the simplest proof that they didn't go to the moon is think of any technological machine from 1969 that is more advanced than its counterpart today. Any cell phone, any microwave oven, any ink pen that can do more in 1969 than its counterpart today. Because back when they only had 1/millionth the computing power of a cell phone, they claimed they went 1,000 times farther than they can send a rocket today with people on board, even after 50 years better technology. And then if you want hard evidence, just go to Sibrel.com. On the homepage is a video called The Moon Landing Fraud in 3 Minutes. And you'll see, if you go outside on a sunny day, I know in Seattle that may be difficult, but eventually when you have one, look at 2 trees, 2 telephone poles, 2 people standing in your parking lot at work, your front yard. Their shadows always run parallel. It's impossible for them to intersect because the sun is so big.
So Bart, did the Soviet...
a picture that they allegedly took on the moon where an astronaut shadow is running at 12 o'clock and a rock 5 feet away is running at 9 o'clock, a 90-degree difference from objects 5 feet apart. I'm a filmmaker whose job is to make fake scenes look real. That picture was taken with electrical light. You can prove the moon landings were shot on Earth with one photograph that's at Sibrel.com.
So did the Soviet Union with Luna 9 in 1966 that they made the first soft landing? No?
Well, you can land an unmanned probe. My book, Moon Man, which I read in audio, Kindle, or print, is interactive. There are about 17 links that you can see for free right now at Sibrel.com. One of them is NASA's own scientists saying that surrounding the Earth is a dangerous band of radiation, that you'd have to go through it to go to the moon, and the technology to do so and survive has not been invented yet. Do you understand? We have NASA's engineer saying the technology to go to the moon has not been invented yet. I mean, at the South Pole, it's 100 degrees below zero. There's 100-mile-per-hour winds. But there are people there because it's possible. If it were possible to go to the moon on the first attempt with 1/1,000th the computing power of a cell phone in 1969, we would have been on Mars 10 years later. We'd be in another solar system by now, and there'd be bases all over the moon. Do you realize that's like saying Lindbergh flew 3,000 miles in 1927 across the Atlantic, and here we are 50 years later, and he can only fly 3 miles, and not a single aircraft from any nation can fly across the Atlantic Ocean. You cannot have greater technology in the past and in the future. But everyone's team won the Super Bowl, and I come along saying they cheated, and people don't want the truth.
Hey, Joe has a quick question.
So if a rocket is not capable of taking people to the moon, how is a rocket able to take an unmanned probe to the moon?
Well, people need oxygen and they need fuel, and they have to be protected from radiation. That's like saying the difference between sending a toaster. You can x-ray a toaster 1,000 times, it'll still make toast. You x-ray a human being 1,000 times, you're going to have trouble. It was Elon Musk who said in order to go to the moon with a rocket taller than the Apollo rocket, you cannot make a direct flight. You have to do a minimum of 8 fuel trips first, maybe as many as 20. So how did a shorter rocket go there in one trip when von Braun himself says in publications the rocket would have to weigh 800,000 tons to do so, and the Saturn V only weighed 2,500 tons? The truth is right there.
How about the moon rocks? They brought moon rocks back. A bunch of geologists have been fooled by these things?
Well, some and some haven't. There's a story that came out, it's part of my book, where they opened a hermetically sealed rock. Now, look at the chain of custody here. Okay, Neil Armstrong claims he personally picked up this purple rock off the lunar surface, put it in his pocket specifically for the Prime Minister of the Netherlands, gave it to him, they hermetically sealed it. The creator watched my movie. A funny thing happened on the way to the moon that has that footage in there. And they opened it up at night. Maybe they had a few beers. They put it under a microscope, and it's petrified wood. And it looks out of this world, but it's a fake moon rock. And yet not a single journalist asked the question, if the moon rocks are fake, what about the moon mission? Do you realize this footage that I have? You can see it at Sibrel.com. 2 NBC news directors agreed it proves that they never left Earth orbit, and the federal government threatened them with pulling the plug on NBC if they broadcast it.
Well, Bart, you have a life that is way outside of other people's believing what they see. And if at some point maybe you'll be proven right or you'll be proven wrong, but your fight continues.